My name is Erica McFadden. I'm the director of the Arizona Developmental Displaced Planning Council. And today we're here to talk with you all about how to increase self-advocacy in Arizona. And we're looking at doing peer groups and peer mentoring and peer self-advocacy. And I know throughout the day, we've been hearing a lot of themes of empowerment, advocacy. And so really, we're going to talk to you today about some new initiatives that are happening. But at the same time, we wanted to have this panel. Looks like, did Eileen make it on?
Yes, I did.
Yay! It's our trustee Marcus Harrison Senior Leadership Award winner. Saving the best for last, Eileen.
Thank you. My name is Eileen Tohani. I am Executive Director of Center for Independent Living that's located in Tuba City, Arizona on the Navajo Reservation. And we serve Hopi tribal members, Navajo and San Juan Southern Paiute tribal members. And I've been Executive Director since 2016. And what we have going, what we started was a peer mentor group, basically. And again, food is the draw, like George said. Food, you buy food for them, they get together for lunches. And so we had two groups that we started. One was a peer mentor group that was sort of like a peer support group. And the other group is a coalition group. And these groups, members of these groups are invited to participate in the Arizona, oh gosh, what is it? It used to be community, Arizona AZEEI, which stands for Arizona Empowerment and Education Initiative, it's developed by Silk, one of our Silk offices. And we've been doing that class, and it teaches everyone that joins about empowerment, and they learn disability history, they learn the independent living movement and how the father of independent living, Mr. Roberts, and how all that came about. They learn about that at first. And after taking the classes, they're invited to just keep coming to either support groups or further along to get into the coalition groups. Now on the coalition groups, they're learning about the different things that are happening, either worldwide, statewide, tribal, nation-wide, and about legislative initiatives. And they learn about everything that's going on and how it relates to, the disability movement. What is it they need to, do they need to write letters? They need to advocate for certain, so they do a lot of work in that area. And pre-COVID, they were meeting person to person in groups here at our offices. But after COVID happened, they all everybody went into shock for a while. It was really quiet for about a couple of months, and we're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? But we got back on the phone with everybody and tried to help everybody be able to access getting together via telephone. So now that's what they're doing. They're all getting together via telephone, and they're all used to it. They're happy with it, and they feel supported. They're meeting on a monthly basis or more, because they're all invited to keep in touch, check on each other's, talk to each other's, and they basically love it, And we're looking for more people to come on board. Yeah, I mean, we realized how COVID has a bad thing, but it made us realize that more people could be on these meetings. It's like very, very accessible. We just have to make sure they all have phones or that work in their area, so yeah, it's beautiful to see. Yeah, so
that is go ahead.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, that is such a great example, Eileen, of how these self-advocacy groups can help people. I mean, COVID is a perfect example of how you all were able to help people to still stay connected and not alone during one of the most isolating times in our history. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And it kind of makes me want to kick it off and ask you, the rest of you all, when we talk about self-advocacy groups, this is something that we don't normally talk about. We talk about individual self-advocacy. But when you think about your experiences with the self-advocacy groups you're part of, why do you think that they're so important to be part of a group? And do you have any specific examples to share of or a story that resonated with you, how it's helped somebody? Calvin, do you want to start?
Yes, thank you. I think that self-advocacy groups are very beneficial in just helping to encourage that socializing aspect. I know a lot of individuals do not get that social interaction for whatever reason. It may be a lack of transportation or inaccessible technology, or just a lack of education. Maybe they have not had the opportunity to learn how to use some of these different technologies. I have a friend specifically who struggles with learning technology. And yeah, I'm really trying to help her with that, and we're getting there, but it's taking time. But one specific story that always comes to mind is regarding one of our members who he ran into one of our other members at the time. He wasn't a member yet, but he ran into one of our other members in the parking lot, and he saw that she was using accessible hand controls to drive her vehicle. And it was that interaction that helped to encourage him to learn how to use hand controls also, so he could learn to drive also. And he ended up coming to our YACAS meetings, and based on some of the knowledge that he has acquired in his life through going to college, he was able to help us put together a website. So that was very beneficial, that he was able to interact with our member in that parking lot, which led to him learning how to drive, and also helping us with our website. So it's like you never know what's going to happen with these self-advocacy groups who you're going to meet.
Oh.
And I love the element of surprise. I'm really big on surprises, so yeah.
That's great, Calvin.
Yeah.
That's really good. It sounds like you all created a domino effect for him, where he's able to realize new skills that he didn't know he could do just by being around others that also have disabilities and seeing what's possible.
Yeah,
so that's awesome. Monica or George, one of you guys want to go next?
I can tell you, since I've been a part of People First, I always enjoy going to different parts of the state, you know, when we used to do that and do trainings on different, you know, issues, and some of them, you know, just, I didn't know I didn't know you could do this or something like that. But one thing, you know, one thing I think that I remember is when some of us went to the Capitol to get the R word eliminated in state, you know, I forget what that, but that was one of the first times I went to the Capitol and testified.
Mm-hmm. Was it scary?
It was, because, and they're still trying to do it, you know, you have to go down there to sign up, you know, you couldn't, and the kiosks are not very accessible. I mean, I think at one point, the last time I went down there, there was just starting. Mm-hmm. They did have at one point a computer down on the first floor where you could sign up or something.
So it sounds like it made you realize that the power of what you could do at the Capitol too,
yes,
being part of these groups.
Yes,
that's great, because I think people don't realize how much effect they can have on our legislators if they, especially people with disabilities, coming together. So right. That is a really great example, Monica. And George, I wanted to turn it to you and see if you had anything to add on what Eileen, Calvin, and Monica had already said.
Yeah, I think that self-advocacy groups are a great way of, you know, you start at your individual self. A lot of people join self-advocacy groups as the first step in getting involved within the self-advocacy movement and ultimately the disability rights movement. You know, they come in because they have a problem, they have an issue, something's going on in their lives. You know, maybe they are looking for more of a relationship, personal friendship, stuff like that, or they do have an issue that they're facing, like for instance, they're dealing with poke rehab. And self-advocacy groups are a good way of starting that, getting involved. I've had lots of cases where people have joined our self-advocacy group because they heard about this and they wanted answers on how they could find, you know, an answer to an issue they were facing. Mm-hmm. But once they learn about, you know, they deal with the issues that they may be dealing with, then you start getting them involved in the bigger self-advocacy world. It's now you're advocating not just for yourself, but you're advocating for others. And then as you start seeing that they start getting involved and you start building the future leaders of our self-advocacy and our disability movement. And it's a great way of getting people involved. And I think that that's one of the benefits of having a self-advocacy group.
That is so spot on, especially when people realize that they're not alone and that there's more people like them and that there's power in numbers, especially. So that's also a great example. And I just kind of wanted to shift a little bit before I turn it over to Eileen and just mention, you know, like, I'm just going to be very frank. We have been struggling with self-advocacy in Arizona, not just Arizona, nationally, forever. I mean, it's always been a problem, especially in the tribal communities. And so today we did want to talk about, candidly, what are some of the barriers that we're dealing with and some of the issues that we need to start really looking at if we really want to start basically building a movement and getting more people involved. So I'm going to ask you, Eileen, as somebody who's been working in this space for such a long time, what were some of the barriers? I know COVID was a huge barrier. Sounds like you were able to find a really great alternative to meet with through by phone. But what are some other barriers that you all have experienced trying to build more self-advocates on tribal land?
I think previously, pre-COVID, it was transportation. We thought, before COVID, you didn't think of you thought I mean, my thinking was we had to bring everybody together face to face for them to talk. And so we were lacking funding I mean, there were people calling us from like Ganado, which is about 2.5 hours away from Tuba City, and people calling from Shanto, which is an hour away, and they all wanted to come. They wanted to come to the group sessions, and that was a barrier. But now, with what's happened with COVID, I realized, well, they could just, it's just as well. By phone is just as good, So, and then also, I think there was the major thing was transportation. And mainly, we had an issue from the beginning. We had issues trying to getting people interested, but it took some time. It really took some time. I would say maybe about 3 years to get more people together. We just kept at it and kept at it. And now I would say at the most, we probably have about 16 people, at some of our group sessions. And then making sure that they all had accessible phones, phones that could work from their areas, because on tribal lands, you never know what the reception areas are like, and it may depend on the different phones they have. So we had to do a little bit of research with each of them. And so I think the biggest barrier was probably transportation. But with the way it is now, I'm realizing they can all be there by phone. It works just as well. And one group, I mean, you would think somebody would have to be here for them to learn Braille, because a majority of our peer mentors are blind. So they're learning Braille, Navajo Braille, through a school teacher. That's a Braille. She's a teacher for the blind, and she's teaching them Navajo Braille over the phone. So it works. It's working. They love it. They're doing it. So it's not. I mean, if anything, COVID-19 has this COVID stuff has improved. What we can do, and having the group together by phone works just as well as as it's working even better than before. So thank you.
That's great, Eileen. And I think it's important to know that it sounds like it's also a great word of mouth that you've been able to have people talking to each other about it, to stay connected, to grow the message about your group. Is that true? When you guys
yes. The groups themselves are bringing in people, other people that will join.
That's really good. I did have a question in the chat before I turn it over to the rest of you guys. Roxanne had asked a question about, because Monica, you brought up the RTS accounts.
Yeah.
And she had asked if there was, because she knows that the RTS account, activating it is a barrier because you have to go down to the kiosk down at the Capitol, or there's an office in Tucson. She wants to know if there's any disability advocacy groups educating American Indians about using the RTS.
I don't know.
Okay, and George and Calvin and Eileen, do either of you three know?
Can you explain what RTS is?
Yeah, it's the request to speak system that's down at the Arizona State Legislature. So you have to activate an account to be able to weigh in on bills. So like any bill that affects you, if you don't like it or do like it, you can vote yes or no and make comments, and the legislators can see it. So it's a good way. And you can also sign up to make a testimony like Monica did about the R word. You can sign in to be able to make a statement at a hearing.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And so just to
No,
answer,
I haven't heard of it. We did a Lola thing, Lola, training to access Lola. That was about it.
So Roxanne, there is, I know Ability 360 which is, which is a sill down here. And they did make a video, I believe, on how to use the RTS system. And I know our council also did a short video on how to use the RTS, And what's happened is all the self-advocates have gotten together and they're really pushing hard to change that activation process of the Capitol, but they still didn't do it. I mean, the state legislature still wouldn't do it, but that doesn't make them stop. They're still going to keep pushing the issue. Right now, we have to send proxies down to the Capitol, and people inside the legislature have said that we can call them. They gave us a number. We can call them, and if we have people to sign up, we can just call and they'll sign up the people for us to activate their accounts. Thank you, John. And I can put the link to the RTS too, but specifically for tribal members, no, there hasn't been one that's specific to tribal community. I'm going to turn the question over now to Calvin, Monica, or George. Either one of you want to go next. What are some of the barriers that you've seen? I know Eileen had mentioned some in her neck of the woods. Have you seen any barriers when it comes to either growing your group or even starting the group? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I would like to say, I think adding on to transportation, I think issues of the companies themselves that provide transportation, there's a big problem with them saying, how do I say that they were there when they weren't. Or they don't, instead of calling and saying, where are you? I can't find you. They put in, well, we were there, but you weren't.
Okay.
That's one barrier. And then also, just your usual, well, I don't know if this is this question or another question. It has to do with, people not responding or, not saying, not responding if you put a reminder out. I don't know if that goes with this question or the next one.
No, that's right. So basically people not being responsive to coming to meetings. They're just not, or they say they'll come and then they don't come. So you don't have to plan for it.
Right. Or they don't respond to the announcement, and you can't, you can't get a hold of them. And they aren't saying, well, I'm sorry, there's some issues, or nobody's saying, I'm not going to be able to be a part of it, or I'm not going to be able to make it for a while. And sometimes the advisors have to get involved because we can't, because they won't respond to emails or texts or phone calls.
So it sounds like just getting people to want to stay involved is a problem.
Yes.
That makes sense. George or Calvin, do you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, this is.
Oh, there you go.
Go ahead, Calvin.
All right.
No, you go first.
Yeah, like transportation is one of the issues. I mean, it was one of the issues back before the pandemic. I would hear a few of our members say that, because we had individuals coming from all over the valley. And then technology, as I mentioned, especially now, I think maybe that's a barrier, maybe. I mean, because I have heard from others that like technology is a barrier, so I'm assuming maybe that. And then, as Monica mentioned, like people not responding, but I like to be hopeful. And I'm thinking maybe people are just busy, maybe, maybe them getting involved with our self-advocacy group has actually empowered them enough that they're too busy for us now, and that's okay.
That's a great way. That's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's okay. So we just gotta figure out new ways of getting new people.
I hear you. And George, I know did you want to add anything?
I think that to the larger picture, I think that having a self-advocacy group will require commitment and help from advisors and from organizations that are willing to take the time and make the commitment to support self-advocacy groups. Self-advocacy groups are for people with disabilities, led by people with disabilities, and the decisions that are made by the self-advocacy groups are made by the self-advocates themselves. But they do need help, and they do need people that are willing to help them facilitate meetings. We call those people advisors, and they're willing to take time out of their busy schedules. And I know it's a lot to ask for sometimes, but to take the time and host meetings, especially because technology is not cheap, especially if you're gonna host something like a Zoom call. Well, Zoom calls require you to purchase it and to be able to, to have that, which is sometimes out of reach for self-advocacy groups. So being able to make the commitment to provide the time and the resources needed to help self-advocates get together to make those connections and learn how to advocate for themselves and learn how to advocate for others. It's going to take some dedication from people that are willing to say, I'm going to help.
Those are all great points. I mean, it does sound like this is a complex issue, getting people to understand what this is and helping with logistics. So you're right. It sounds like we need a lot more helpers to grow it across the state, including the tribal community. And I see Kathy has been so patient and has had her hand raised for a while. Let me see if I don't know how to oh, there you go. Go ahead, Kathy.
Hi, thanks. I'm having trouble typing today, so I just thought it would be easier if I raised my hand. I am a caregiver, 24/7 caregiver and legal guardian for my boyfriend of 12 years, who 5 years ago next month had a brain injury, and he is of Native American Indian descent. So this is a question related to his heritage, but also a general question about disability advocacy and self-advocacy. Is there, does it exist somewhere? And if not, can anyone think of, or could we figure out a way to work on one location or a clearinghouse of information on self-advocacy groups and advocacy organizations for people who are newly disabled and loved ones of newly disabled people to access? Because after 8 months in the hospital, Mike was discharged from an acute neuro rehab, and I thank God for social workers, but basically our social worker was like, here's where you get your hospital bed. Here's a list of a few organizations, which was minimal. Here's where you get your feeding tube supplies and your wheelchair, and out you are, out the door. So it's 5 years, but I'm still learning, about groups and resources and everything. And it's just very, very, very overwhelming and very time consuming and discouraging for a person who's trying to advocate for themselves for a loved one, like me as a caregiver and a guardian, to even get any kind of grasp on what exists out there.
Thank you.
It's very, it's like, people shouldn't have to go through this and miss out. And also about the Native American Indian, like there should be like something where at least a social worker can say, here, this is a website, this is, one place or two people you can call, and then somehow have it updated. Am I making sense? I don't
No,
know.
you are. It's almost like you're a plant in our audience for for the thing that we're going to be introducing next. But I did want to ask you, Kathy, where do you all live?
We live in El Mirage, in the West Valley, out by Surprise.
Okay. So George, I don't know, do you want to go ahead and start sharing the resources that we have now that Kathy could benefit from? And then other panelists, if you want to chime in with other ideas for Kathy and the rest of the audience for what we can do to better coordinate resources, we can talk about that. Does that work?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
do you want to share your screen and show the website?
I sure will. Do you want to put your link, or can somebody put the link in there, and I will do that? Share screen. Okay. And doing that. Okay, so thank you, Kathy, for bringing up that question. There is actually a website that has all the things that you were talking about. George.
It's not up yet.
Oh, Lord. See, this is why I hate doing this. Share screen, host disabled participant screen sharing.
Erica, it's Kathy. While you guys are looking that up, does the website, is it a source also for information about Native American, resources for Native Americans? Because I am not, and but I did find out through my sister that they are part of the Sioux and Blackfoot tribes, but I know nothing about how to even, like, who to talk to about getting involved in the Native American community and what resources are available for disabled Native Americans.
While we're trying to figure that out, can I talk to her about it?
Yeah, go ahead, George. And there is no PowerPoint, John. It's just a website.
Okay, let me bring that up then.
That's the link that I just sent to everybody.
Yeah.
So go ahead, George.
So, Kathy, I understand your struggle. I know it's difficult. Having a disability myself at the age of 12, it really was just like, here you go, figure it out, and there'll be a hospital bed at your house.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard. We are trying to get a self-advocacy coalition going, and a statewide self-advocacy coalition going, where self-advocacy groups can come together and everybody could share information and talk about what's going on in their lives, what's going on in their communities. And it's also for people who are just self-advocates, who don't have a self-advocacy group they can join yet. Just to come together and learn about what's going on. And right now we have a website called swifamilies.org/self-advocacy solutions. We call it Self-Advocacy Solutions. That's the name of our coalition. And you can click on the website. I don't know if you're able to see it on the screen, but you'll see right here where it says become a member today. You can click on it and it'll take you to an application where you can share information, where you can apply, and we can contact you and let you know how you can become a member of our Self-Advocacy Solutions coalition. To your point as to wanting to get involved with local groups, like Erica has mentioned, self-advocacy groups are struggling right now not just in Arizona, but nationwide. And we're always looking to develop new self-advocacy groups. So it's a growing process, and I know that it's been a while, and you're trying to get through this, but you know, we're trying to develop more self-advocacy groups in Arizona. Particularly, I know in the west side of Phoenix, there's hardly anything really available. But with that said, as far as developing self-advocacy groups and looking for resources, under the same website, Erica, if you can scroll up. At the very top, we have Self-Advocacy Solutions, the tab. And if you click on that tab where it says Self-Advocacy Solutions, there'll be self-advocacy resources. And if you go to the resources, that's where we're starting to put up resources on how to develop self-advocacy groups, where you can access information about other self-advocacy groups in the state. And that one is hosted by the Arizona Developmental Disabilities Planning Council. So you can find out what self-advocacy groups are out there in what areas, or you can find out information on how to develop one on your own, or work with an organization to develop self-advocacy groups. With that said, starting a self-advocacy group may take some money, and we want to help you guys start groups. And this is information for everybody. So if you can go back to the main Self-Advocacy Solutions page. So one of the things that we're offering to anybody that's wanting to start a self-advocacy group is we're offering up to $2,000 in sort of like a mini grant type scholarship type fund, where you can use the $2,000 to purchase or pay for anything that you will need to develop a self-advocacy group. Now, we have an application process. You can download the application on our website, Self-Advocacy Solutions, under swifamilies.org, under the tab Self-Advocacy Solutions. You can download the application, apply, and you know, if you meet all the requirements that are required to start a self-advocacy group, we can work with you so that you can start developing a self-advocacy group in Arizona. I know that you asked questions about whether we had any information as to any Native American resources. Currently, we do not have anything on the website, but you know, this is why we wanted to present here, is because we know that there's a need in the Native American community to develop these self-advocacy groups. And so if there's anybody out there that's wanting to take on that, then we'd be happy to work with you guys to see how we can do that.
George, I just want to add, we did have Eileen's group. Assist Independence is listed because they do have a group, but that's the only group that we know of for up in the northern area. But it's looking at
this is Eileen.
yes.
That's what I was thinking. He's welcome to call us. You know, we're there. I don't know if he speaks Navajo, but the groups are led and facilitated by our community action coordinator, and she speaks Navajo, and you know, so she can go back and forth. She just goes back and forth, and any tribal member who only speaks Navajo are welcome to join. You know, they come on and she talks to them in Navajo, and she switches back and forth between English. And there are some that are only English speaking too. So, you know, she works with all of them. So, thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. I know you'd have something to say about that. Does anybody else have any other ideas or things that the community can do to help support some of these groups, or to get the information out? I mean, here's the problem, is that a lot of people, even people with disabilities, don't understand how these groups help. I mean, everybody's busy, but it really is being able to build confidence and knowing, what the resources are. And by going to one of these groups, you could find out that there is a place that offers specific things that you're looking for. It's all about, word of mouth. So, and I guess I want to leave it if anybody has any questions from the audience. I know we only have a few more minutes left and it's late in the day. Yes.
This is Eileen. Just to add, our groups, they get together and they talk about, the support group, they talk about everything, anything, everything. They share ideas about assistive technology. They talk about, during COVID-19, they all felt very isolated and alone and scared. So when they got together, that's what they talked about, and they all reassured each other. They all, and that's what they needed, was that social interaction. And to let everybody in the group know you're not alone. We're all here. Talk to us, and that's, I think it's one of the main reasons they love getting together. And as in Zoom calls, they rarely use Zoom, but they use free, what do they call it? Free conference calls. So it's free, and it's the same number every time, and it's the same access code every time. And their meetings are set on the same date every month, maybe like the second Thursday, and it never changes. It's always the same. So nobody has to try to remember when the meetings are, because it's the same time every month, same time and same phone number, that all makes it very easy. So thank you.
That's an important point. Thank you so much, Eileen. So go ahead, Monica.
That is an important thing because that's what People First does. We meet the second Thursday of the month, and we usually plan the last Saturday, but the thing is, it's always the same number, the same access code, and that would help if all groups did that.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, because every time, and I'm not saying that about the council, I'm just saying about all groups, because I've been in groups that use other, they may meet on the same time, but they use a different number and a different code every time. And it gets confusing in trying to memorize it. And especially with a person with a visual disability, you tend to memorize more.
That's a very good point, Monica. And I just wanted to say, because we're about to get the hook for this session, but I wanted to let you guys know the evaluation link is in the chat box. Please help us get the word out about, Eileen's group that is now available anywhere. Anybody can call in to be part of that. Eileen, is the information on your website, Assisted Independence, for the group?
I'll have to look at our website, but the phone number, if anybody's interested in, is 928-614-0554, and her name is Kathy Della Rosa.
Okay, thank you. And help us get the word about the grant too. We need more self-advocacy organizations in Arizona. Thanks, guys.